Okay, so to begin, we have this as a general overview. So this is just how the session is going to run today. So we have 2 parts. Part 1 is speakers on the different routes into medicine, and then part 2 is a question for the speakers. So if you have any questions, feel free to put it in the chat below, but we will be answering all questions at the end in our second part of the session. So we're going to start with an introduction by the co-founder of Med2Be Consultants, Miranda, and then also a short intro by me. And then we're going to go into route by our speaker, Olayemi, with Nimra, conversion route with Frank, graduate route with Anna, international route. Then after that, we're going to have the question period. Okay. So this is going to be taken by Miranda. So Miranda, if you could please unmute yourself.
Hey everybody, my name is Miranda Interin-Cancer. I'm one of the co-founders of Med2Be Consultants. And we basically created this company last year because Chadza and I, who's going to be part of the talk today, we had a difficult time getting into medical school. I applied twice. First time I got no offers, and the second time I got one, which is where I am today. So we basically just wanted to help other students with their journey to medical school, because we know, especially as Black, young Black females, how hard it can be. So we created this company to kind of give you our experience and to help you avoid the mistakes that we made. So we provide personal statement services, UCAT, tuition, interview prep, and we also kind of provide strategic application advice. And what that means is when you come to us and you tell us your portfolio, so your GCSEs, A-levels, your UCAT and everything, we'll sit down with you and have a chat about what we think would be the best options in terms of where to apply. So basically that's a little bit about who we are. If you are new to our company, please follow us on social media and have a visit to our website. Everything is on the page in front of you. I hope you enjoy our first event. We've got a lot of great speakers coming up today. So thank you.
Thank you for that, Miranda. Okay, so now we're going to go to the next slide. And you're probably wondering who I am. So my name is Debbie Ann, and I am a second year medic at the Lincoln and Nottingham Medical School. At Med2Be Consultants, I currently work as the post-16 coordinator. So that involves running events like these and liaising with the current students that we have. So the reason for this event was because I felt that there was a lot of questions and not a lot of understanding on the different routes into medicine. So hopefully an event like this will help clarify that. So what I'm going to do first is do a quick introduction of the different routes into medicine, just a brief summary before we get started by the speakers. Okay, so the first route is the traditional route, and the traditional route involves doing UCAT exams, interviews and a personal statement, and then an application for undergraduate entry for a 5 or 6 year medical course. Following from that, we have the gap year route, and the gap year route is taking at least a year out, where you could possibly improve your application by volunteering or retaking A-levels and then applying to medicine. Then we have the conversion course route. So that route is where you usually for at least a year do another science degree. So for example, medical sciences, biomedical sciences, and then transfer into medicine. Then we have graduate entry, and graduate entry is where you have a degree, which could be science related, medical related or not, and then apply to doing medicine. Next, we have the international route, and the international route is when you apply to medicine abroad. So that would be applying for medicine in another country. And then lastly, we have the foundation route, so that's taking a foundation year. This will not be covered in today's event, but I thought it would be good to include it just in case. So that is taking a year for science-based teaching, and then after that, starting the 5-year medical course. Okay, so now we're going to go on to the traditional route of medicine, and that's going to be taken by our speaker, Olayemi.
Hello, everyone. Hi, everyone. So can you hear me?
Yeah, we can all hear you.
All right. Hi, everyone. My name is Olayemi, and I'm a second-year medic at King's College London, and today I'm going to take you guys through my journey to med school. Next slide, please. Yeah, so this is just kind of the intro slide. Next, please. All right, so a bit of background about me. So like I said, I'm a second-year medic at King's College London. I'm 19 years old, so I actually just turned 19 last October. So I'm a Christian and medic YouTuber, so I do med school vlogs, I give med school advice, and kind of just talk about faith as well. So I was born in the UK and I was raised in Nigeria, so I did primary school, secondary school in Nigeria, and then I came to the UK for my A-levels in 2018. So I didn't always want to do medicine. I actually didn't have like a specific encounter. It was just kind of like a passion that grew over time. Initially, I wanted to do like financial management or something that had to do with math, but then it just kind of came up. Next slide, please. So in terms of like my academic background and applying for med school, so I took the IGCSEs, which is the international GCSEs, and I got 7 stars and 2 A's. And then for A-levels, I did maths, chemistry, and biology, where I got A star, A star, A. And then to apply for medicine, there's 2 exams for the undergraduate entry. There's the UCAT and the BMAT. So the UCAT, I got a 650, which was kind of an average score for like the unis I was applying to. And the BMAT, I actually did less than expected. So I got 4.1, 4.4, and a 4A in the essay, which was quite good. And then in terms of work experience, my first ever work experience was in year 10. So I started in a hospital, was quite new, so I didn't really see much. And then in year 12, I did a GP work experience, and I didn't see much as well because it wasn't like a proper hospital. So I didn't really get that proper work experience before applying for med school. So I did 2 UCAT unis and 2 BMAT unis when I was applying. So the 4 unis I applied for were King's, Oxford, Imperial, and Bristol. And then my 5th choice was Biomed and Nottingham. Next slide, please. Okay, so in terms of like hearing back and rejection, this was a very big part for me, and I know it's a really big part for everyone applying to med school. So my first offer I got was for Biomed and Nottingham, and that was quite quick, so I was very excited. I was kind of optimistic, you know, I thought everything was going well until I got my first rejection from Oxford in like November, but I didn't really mind because that wasn't my first choice. So my first choice was Imperial College, and I heard back from them in like January, February, and I remember the day I heard back, it was actually on my way to my exam, and I saw that I got rejected, and it was obviously quite hard for me, but I kind of just pushed through the day, and then I went back home and cried for the whole weekend. But yeah, because that was my first choice at the time. So now we had Bristol and King's left, so I got my 3rd rejection from Bristol, and so I was just kind of waiting on King's to reply. Next slide, please. All right, so at the time I got my interview for King's, I just lost all hope for medicine. I really thought I wasn't going to get into medicine that year. So I remember when I saw the email for King's apply saying that there was an update, I just kind of felt like it was going to be a rejection anyways. And then I saw the email that said I was invited for an interview, and I was really excited. So I went for the interview in March. I thought it went really well, but I got rejected again. So here I was with 4 rejections and kind of just confused on the next step. Next slide, please. All right, so now the wait until results day, I was initially very like scared because I really wanted to get into med school that year. I knew it wasn't the end of the world if I didn't, but I really did. So I just decided to like, you know, give it up to God and trust that he had a plan because, you know, I knew that regardless I would study medicine in the future, even if it wasn't this year. So I was sending out emails to unis, I was calling the unis, asking if they would like consider me on results day if they had any spaces, just to be safe. So the day before results day, I made like a list of unis that I wanted to like call up and email. Next slide, please. Yeah, so this is literally what I had the day before results day. It was like, I drafted emails to send to schools for clearing. I wrote down a list of the unis I wanted to call. So like with the numbers, the emails, I wrote down a list of my scores and everything, just kind of prepping to go into clearing. Next slide, please. So results day came and I was, ready to call up my unis. But at first in the morning, we have like family devotion. So we were like praying. And then I saw like a number calling me, but I didn't know what number it was. So I didn't pick up. And then, I don't know, something just told me to call back. So I did call back, but they didn't pick up. And then they called back a few minutes later. And then I just heard someone say, oh, this is King's College London. And then they asked if I would like to be offered a place. And it was honestly so shocking. I still didn't know what happened. But yeah, that was really exciting. So that is basically how I got into medicine. It wasn't like a very, straightforward path, but I did the typical route. So I did the UCAT, BMAT, everything. Initially got all rejections, but on results day, I was able to get an offer, thankfully. Next slide, please. Yeah, so just like general advice for the UCAT next. So yeah, to start preparing for the entrance exams months before, there's a really good resource called Med2Be, and I only started using this like 2 weeks before, so I didn't really do well. But if you start preparing like enough time beforehand, you'll be very good for the exams. Next, please. So yeah, don't let the wait period affect your studies. So what I decided was that I would focus on what I could change, which was my results. So I just put like as much effort as I could into the exams and kind of just, forgot about like the rejection. I was just like, okay, let me just get my results anyways. So yeah, definitely don't let that affect your studies. Just keep going and keep pushing to get the results that you want. Next, please. Yeah, so don't be shy to call and to email unis. Like literally just do the best you can to make sure you have as much as possible a chance to get into uni. That yeah, so don't be shy to call unis and to email them as well. And also try not to stress too much. Like if it's something that you're passionate about, just keep in mind that you're going to do it one day anyways. Like even if it's not that year that you get in, you could reapply the next year. So like mentally prepare for taking a gap year. That's what I did as well. Like I knew it wasn't the end of the world. Like it was okay to reapply. As long as it's something you want, then just keep going for it. So yeah, don't stress too much. I know it's easier said than done, but yeah. And yeah, so email the schools that rejected you as well, just to kind of ask for feedback, so you know what to improve on in your next application round as well. Yeah, so where to find me? I have a YouTube channel. It's my name, Olayemi. My Instagram is Olayemi as well, with 3 A's. And my TikTok, I don't post on TikTok, but I'm trying to start a TikTok, so you can follow me there as well. Next slide, please. Yeah, so that's it for today. Thank you guys so much for listening. And I believe there's a section for questions afterwards. So if you guys have any questions, you can ask. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much, Olayemi. If anyone has any questions following Olayemi's presentation, could you please put it in the chat below? We will be taking all questions in our second section. Okay, so now we're going to move on to our second route, which is the gap year route, and that is going to be taken by our speaker, Nimra.
Hi. So my name's Nimra, and I'm going to be talking about my experience taking a gap year. So currently I go to Anglo Ruskin and I'm a second year medical student. Next slide, please. So the first time I applied to UCL Imperial Manchester and University of East Anglia, and I received offers from Manchester and UEA, but I didn't get the grades. Next slide, please. So during my gap year, I decided to attend college and I resat biology and chemistry A levels. And something I also wanted to do to keep busy was get a part-time job. So something that I found in my area was this place called LHAP. And basically it's a playground with kids with special needs and disabilities. And I still work here during the weekends. And this was a really nice experience for me, and it also really helped my application and gaining important skills. For example, a lot of the kids there aren't verbal, and so I learned like new forms of communication. For example, using music or like paintings or body language, and this was something that I could talk about in interviews and also my personal statement, and it's something that you can use to set yourself apart from other people applying. Next slide, please. So the second time I applied to 4 medicine universities. So I applied to King's, Anglia Ruskin, Manchester, and Hull and York. And for my 5th, I applied to pharmacy at King's. So I got offers from Anglia Ruskin, Hull and York, and also my 5th option. Next slide, please. So the difference when I applied the second time, so I made sure to research each university and see where my strengths lied. So for example, how much they weighted the UK CAT or interviews or GCSEs, and also with interview practice. So something that I found really useful was doing an interview crash course. So the one I attended was the Medic Porter crash course, and it just had loads of MMI stations, and it was really good, a really good experience, and being in that setting, so you were more confident when it came to actual interviews. And also something that was really useful was starting UK CAT practice earlier. So as mentioned before, so Medify I used as well, and that's a very good platform to practice on. Next slide, please. So the advantage of my gap year, so because I was resitting my A-levels, I was disheartened at first, but I was like, okay, how can I turn this into a positive thing? So for example, where I had weaknesses in my knowledge, going back and consolidating them. And also I talked about in my interview how this made me more determined to do medicine and not see it as a setback and turn it into something positive. And I think that's something that interviewers in particular can see. So for example, they will see that you are more dedicated to doing it, and that can set you apart, and you can use it as a strength. And also I talked about like self-growth and gaining confidence as well. And that's really important because during medicine, like you're going to be talking to a lot of people, and it's a journey, and you will constantly have experiences where you might not, for example, do the best in your class. And this was like a good experience for me, seeing, for example, setbacks and how to deal with them. And also continuing my job at LHAP, which I still do, and also working on personal skills, for example, driving, cooking, and also taking this time to have a break because it is a demanding course. And so I try to take a break and prepare myself for my degree. Next slide, please. So the general advice that I have for potential gap year students is that the process can be very draining, but it's important to stay focused, but at the same time, make sure you make time for yourself and you take breaks. And also something that I needed to learn was to prioritize and organize, because there's a lot to do and sometimes you can't get everything done, and understanding what's important and making sure to do those things first. And also don't get too disheartened because it is a very demanding process and also can be draining, and looking at the positive in situations. And also make sure you're confident in yourself, and that will show through, hopefully. So my Instagram is Nimra Mirza with 2 H's at the end. So if you have any questions, you can contact me on that. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Nimra. Next, we're going to go through the conversion course route, and that's going to be taken by our speaker, Frank.
So hi, my name's Frank, and I converted from biomedical science into medicine. Next slide. So yeah, I'm a second-year medical student at the University of Manchester, and I was born in Germany, but I went to school in London, and I went to sixth form in central London. Next slide. So in my sixth form, most people did 4 A-levels. So I did biology, maths, economics, and physics. And initially, I didn't really know if I wanted to do medicine or not, but I just ended up doing it because it was something that I was like, I think biology is something I liked the most out of all my subjects. So then I started to look around what you needed for medicine. And during my year 12 summer, I did work experience in Germany in the hospital for 4 weeks, which was quite lucky because my dad was able to get me that place. And it was with third year medical students, so it wasn't like a normal work experience. So I got to do things like learning how to take blood from patients, and I got to watch endoscopies and stool transplants, and it was quite interesting. Next slide. So like I said, I didn't initially want to do medicine like fully, but then when I realized I did want to do medicine, I realized that I needed chemistry for the majority of the medical schools in England. And at the time I wasn't doing chemistry, but I was doing biology. So then I looked up some alternate entries into medicine from the A-levels I did, and I didn't really want to do a gap year because in that gap year I would have had to do chemistry A-level from the beginning and then do the UK CAT, which I didn't do at the beginning. So I applied for biomedical science at Manchester, Warwick, Birmingham and Newcastle. And Manchester was my first option because when applying to these biomedical science degrees, the majority of them also needed chemistry A-level. So trying to find a uni that didn't need chemistry A-level to do my biomedical science and also offered the conversion was quite challenging. But University of Manchester had the best requirements, in my opinion, and they had the most spaces, which was like 10. Next slide, please. So, went back. I think you missed the slide. Yeah. So then when I got to university, they had a talk in like the first few weeks, and they were talking about how there was the conversion, because when I was doing my research beforehand, there wasn't much on the conversion route in Manchester. They just said briefly that University of Manchester offer like 10 spaces for biomedical students to convert into medicine. But when I got into uni, they had a talk about the requirements needed to convert. So at the University of Manchester, because it was an internal conversion, you required a 2-1 in your first semester in order to be able to apply. And then after that, they would select from your personal statement who would get an interview. And then once you were given an interview, then you'd be given a conditional offer. And that conditional offer was you had to get a 2-1 in your second semester exam. So luckily I was able to get an offer. And something I didn't know before I got there was the number of people that would be applying for this course, because it wasn't just biomedical science, it was also for the neuroscience students and for any person that was doing a biological science. So it was quite competitive, but luckily I was one of 9 people that were able to get an offer. And this is just a list of some of the other universities that offer a 1-year conversion route from biomedical science. But some of the universities on this list, in my case, I couldn't apply to because they also required chemistry A-level, which I didn't have. So yeah, that's my conversion route into medicine and just some advice. As I said, it was very competitive. So at Manchester, I think it's one of the biggest unis. So for biomedical science, there was around like 300 plus students in my course. And then obviously it was open to other courses in the biological science school. So there was quite a lot of people that applied for the conversion. Next. So something I didn't really think about was how I would feel if I had to finish my biomedical science degree and if I wasn't able to convert after 1 year. which was not really in my mind because I wouldn't say I really enjoyed biomedical science, although there was some parts of it that were okay. There was other parts where I wasn't enjoying it, so doing well in it was really challenging. Trying to find the motivation was challenging, and then if I wasn't offered a place, it would have been really hard to finish the degree well. So I would say just think about, if you are applying for medicine, maybe your last option shouldn't just think about biomedical science, and think about a degree that you'd be okay with doing. I would say ask questions about the requirements. So luckily, when I got to Manchester, I knew a few older people that knew other people that had done the conversion. So I had a little bit of an idea what I needed to do and like what would make me stand out for my conversion. And just again, try to find someone that's successfully done it. It will just help to motivate you. Yeah, I would say if you're intending to apply for conversion, make sure that you're still interested in medicine, because when it comes to your time to write your personal statement and to do your interview, they will ask you why you still want to do medicine and why you're still trying to do medicine. So try to make it seem that you're still interested and you're still actively doing things such as doing work experience that's more recent or up to date, or reading books or research. And there's always a way. So when I applied, I didn't really think that, I was optimistic, but looking at how things panned out, they were quite lucky. So I would say there's always a way into medicine, even if you think that there might not be. And yeah, if you have any questions, feel free, you can just DM me.
Thank you so much, Frank. Now, so if you have any questions, please feel free to put it in the chat below. Just again, they will all be answered in our second section. Now we're going to go on to the graduate entry route, and that's going to be taken by Anna.
Hey everyone, I hope you're well. I'm Anna and I do graduate entry medicine at the University of Warwick. If you could go to the next slide, please. Yeah, so that's me before I started at Warwick Medical School. I am 24 years old and I'm from Leeds. And yeah, like I said, I'm first year, so I've only had a term, so I don't have much experience with medicine yet, but hopefully I will. Yeah, next slide, please. So what is graduate entry medicine and who is it for? So it's kind of in the name, but it's basically for people who already have a degree. And I think that most of you guys are in year 12, so you don't have a degree yet, but that's no reason to like switch off, because it's never too early to start thinking about graduate entry medicine. You can definitely start thinking about it and preparing for it now. So yeah, it's for people who already have a degree, and it doesn't matter what your degree is in at all. So my degree was in Spanish and philosophy at UCL, and like I was still able to do medicine. And the thing about graduate entry medicine is that they only look at your university degree. That's the only qualification that they want from you. So it doesn't matter if you had not done so well in your GCSEs, and it doesn't even matter if you didn't do that well in your A-levels. They don't care. They just want to know that you've got a 2-1 or a first in your degree. So that's pretty good if you haven't done well in your GCSEs. Sorry, I've got COVID, so like my throat is a bit, but next slide, please. Okie dokie. What did I do before medicine? So as I mentioned, I didn't do a science degree. So for my A-levels, when I was 16, I kind of always had in my mind, maybe medicine, maybe I want to be a doctor, but I just wasn't confident in my sciences, like how good I was at them. And I knew I was good at languages and philosophy. So I thought I'll just do what I'm good at and what I enjoy. So I did Spanish, French and philosophy and ethics. And I did well in those. And then I just took a gap year to improve my languages. So I worked for a bit and then I traveled and I went to Nicaragua in Central America, and I actually ended up teaching science and English in a school, which was really great. And I would just, yeah, I can't recommend a gap year enough. I think it's such a good idea to take a break after school, just have fun and like explore things, explore the world, get work experience, get life experience. I think it's great. Anyway, after my gap year, I went to uni. I went to UCL, did Spanish and philosophy, and that was a 4-year course. And that actually included a year abroad because it was a language course. So in my year abroad, I went to Costa Rica. I lived there for 6 months, and I volunteered for an organization that works with survivors of sex trafficking. So that was really interesting. And when I was there, that's actually when I kind of like wanted to become a doctor again. So if you could go to the next slide, I think now. So yeah, just from the voluntary work that I was doing, I kind of realized I wanted to make a tangible difference in people's lives. And also from just like traveling in different jobs here and there, I realized I wanted to interact with people from all different kinds of walks of life. And I was thinking about, you know, what profession can I go into that does have contact with every kind of person, and obviously medicine, everyone needs healthcare at some point. So yeah, medicine, I think it's such an interesting career, and also you'll hear this term a lot, but there's like lifelong learning. It just never stops, the learning. So it's very interesting, and I think it's probably impossible to be bored as a doctor. Yeah, next slide, please. So how can you prepare for medicine? The best thing that you can do, I think, is just make sure that you really want to do it. It's really hard and it's a huge commitment, and it would be such a shame to like get all the way into medical school and then realize you don't want to do it. So it's better to just really think about it now, think about it clearly now, and make sure you want to do it. And if you don't want to do it, then there's like no shame in that. It's not for everyone. But if you do want to do it, great. Yeah, so make sure you want to do it. And how do you make sure that you want to do it? I think a few things that you can do, like others have mentioned already, is just get work experience, and try to get a range of different experiences. And also, I think it's important to say that you don't have to have, it's great to have like really exciting work experience. And of course, we all want really exciting work experience, but also there's value in just like normal mundane experience. I worked in a care home for like a year with elderly residents, and it was just fun. Like, yes, it's not glamorous to help people go to the toilet and help them shower, but actually medical schools just want to know that you've done something, and they want to know that you've learned from your experience. So in your interviews, and just like in medical school in general, especially at Warwick, they're really big on like reflect on this, reflect on that. What did you learn? So with whatever work experience you end up doing, just make sure you write down things that you learned. What did it teach you? What did you enjoy? What didn't you enjoy? All these things, just constantly be noting things down. I think that's quite important. And then other ways to make sure that you really want to do medicine, talk to healthcare professionals, doctors, nurses, pharmacists, people like that. Find out why they went into their job, what they like about it, what they don't like about it. Obviously go to events like these and hear from current medical students. That's a really great thing to do. And finally, just watch other medical students on YouTube. I think that's like a great thing to do. Obviously, like there's so many medical students online. And I think in terms of interviews, it's really helpful if you've watched medical students from the uni that you're applying to, just because they'll give you like a unique taste of the specific uni, and then the interviewers will like that. Next slide, please. Yeah, so how does graduate medicine application, how does it work? It's kind of similar to undergraduate. It's a lot more competitive though, I have to say, but otherwise it's more or less the same. So yeah, first step, decide that you want to do medicine. Secondly, research the medical schools and their specific entry requirements. Now, like I put that in capitals and I underlined it because it's so important. And with medical schools, they know that you're going to be smart and they know that you've probably got good grades. So they need a way to kind of like sieve out people. And one of the ways they do that is like trying to catch you out on tiny things like specific entry requirements. So Warwick, I needed 70 hours of work experience, but they had like really specific, like what kinds of work experience counted and what didn't. So just make sure you look at the requirements and meet them. Yep, then you apply into 4 medical schools with graduate entry medicine. Same thing, personal statement, you do an aptitude test, and they're the same as undergrad, but there's another one called the GAMSAT, which is very hard, and I didn't do it. I just did the UCAT. And then you have an interview, and it's a similar thing. I had MMI, like, what is it? Multiple mini interviews, multiple. You have those interviews, and then hopefully you'll get an offer. Next slide, please. So what's graduate medicine like? It's hard, it's really hard. There's like no time for anything else. But it's worth it. Hopefully it'll be worth it. Graduate entry medicine courses can be 4, 5, or 6 years long. The one I'm doing is 4 years long. And I think that's why it's so hard, because it's accelerated, but you can do longer ones as well, which are less intense, which may be good. I kind of wish I did a longer one. Warwick's course is just for graduate students, but there are many unis, well, all other unis have a combination of undergraduate and graduate students. Yeah, next slide, please. So I'm just going to talk a bit about finance. Yeah, as I mentioned, it's a bit confusing to explain, but as a graduate, you can apply to undergraduate courses with undergrads, or you can apply to graduate courses with graduates. And if you do the graduate courses with graduates, that's cheaper. So at Warwick, for example, I only need to pay like £3,500 directly to the uni, and that's it. The rest is covered by student finance and the NHS, whereas at other unis, you might have to pay more than that if it's not just a graduate course. I don't think I've explained that very well, so if you have questions, write them down. Next slide, please. And then in terms of living costs, yeah, so for first year, you get around £4,500 from student finance. And then you could possibly get more depending on your household income. But then in your last 3 years, years 2 to 4, at Warwick, that is reduced by student finance. So you get like 2.5K. But this could change depending on your age. If you're above 25, it doesn't depend on your household income. And if you're married, things are different as well. Yeah, next slide, please. Okay, so general advice. Yeah, I keep on saying this, but like make sure that medicine is what you really want to do, because it is hard. Next one. Get useful work experience and be able to justify why the things you've seen or experienced would make you personally a good doctor. Be really specific about yourself and your own work experiences, and try not to be just generic. Yeah, and just be ready to explain why you decided to take the scenic route, why you, like what you did in your time before applying for graduate entry medicine. Yeah. And yeah, also just believe in yourself, like others have said. And yeah, because if you do, then others will see that, and then it'll be good. So good luck, everyone. I think that was my last slide. Oh yeah, where to find me? Probably email is best. That's my email. And then my Instagram as well, but I think you should email me. And I will answer the questions at the end. Thanks for listening.
Thank you so much, Anna. So if you have any questions from Anna's presentation, please put those in the chat. Next, we have our last speaker, and that's Chedsa, and she's going to go through the international route into medicine.
Hi everyone, my name is Chedsa and I am the co-director of Med2Be. Debbie, next slide. And I'm a 4th year medical student. I went abroad to Czech Republic specifically the University of Ostrava. So originally, I wanted to study in the UK because obviously I went to sixth form in the UK, I live in the UK, it was just more convenient, but I always knew that it was going to be hard to get in. The pass rate of like applicants was like 30%, and everybody that was applying was qualified. They had A's, they had the predicted grades. They were basically just as equally qualified as me. So I was looking into other routes just in case. And my main goal is just to study medicine and work as a doctor in the UK. So my dad did some research and he found out that there was many ways of doing that. And he introduced the idea of studying abroad. At first, this was a backup option that I never really thought I would take, but I had it at the side anyway. But then as time started to approach, and I went to some of the like events that they did, I realized that it was actually a pretty good option. So I set my exams to be, Debbie, next slide. I set my exams to be after my A-levels so that I could give myself enough time to work hard for my A-levels. And then straight after I finished A-levels, I think like 3 days later, I started revising for my international exams. And I sat them before my results came out. And with those exams, you go into a hall and you do subjects maths, biology, and chemistry, or physics, biology, and chemistry in a hall with many other people. And you get your results on the day most of the time, if not maybe like during the week, so you know whether you got in or not. The admin was basically for free. All the advice I was given was for free. The only thing I had to pay for was the exam. And unlike the UK, for UCAS, you can only apply to 5 universities. But with applying abroad, you can apply to as many universities in as many countries that are offered to you as possible. So it's really just about doing your own research. Yeah, and as a tip, personally, I went to the country first that I got into, the universities that I was considering. I went to the country for like 2-3 days, just visited it, looked around and see if I like saw myself in that kind of environment. And also another tip is that after you get in, agencies host meetings where all of the international students coming from England get together and get to know each other. Specifically the ones going to university, and that's good because you can make friends before you go, so you don't really feel the like distance and you don't really feel lonely because you're traveling so far. After arriving in Czech, I was escorted to from the airport to my student accommodation with other international students, and then there was somebody from the agency that later came and helped us sort out all of our documents, like our bank cards and transport cards and anything else that we really needed. And then he gave us a tour of the city. Next slide. So how easy was it to secure a place? It was actually pretty simple as long as you revised for the exams. Unlike UCAS, like I said, like you get to apply to a limited number of universities. So if you revise well and you apply, let's say you apply to 20 universities or 10 universities, if you revise well, surely you're going to get into like at least one of the universities that you've chosen. The way I chose my university is that I looked at the top rated universities and all of the ones that were accredited by the GMC. And what that means is that I can come back to work in England without having to do anything extra, except for like an English exam. Next slide. So living cost. It was actually so much cheaper than the UK. Accommodation is very, very cheap. You can get a studio for as little as £150 per month. Compared to in the UK, I looked up the average, it said it was about 772 per month for a studio. And in London, of course, it's going to be more. University fees themselves differ from about 3,500 to about like £9,000, depending on the country and the specific university that you go to. but some universities have scholarships. So for instance, last year, I got a research scholarship. So if you partake in something extra, they can take off money from your tuition fees, but this is usually after you've already joined. And it's very, very similar to the UK. I was a bit nervous at first because I was going to a completely different country that I didn't really know of. To be honest, I didn't even really know where the Czech Republic was when I applied, but I just knew that it had good universities. But when I got here, I was pleasantly surprised. A lot of the shops are the same. There's Tesco, Asda, McDonald's, KFC, Burger King, Subway, all the big shops, brands that you see in England, you'll see them in Europe as well. And it's genuinely much cheaper. Transport is so cheap. I get like a travel card for unlimited bus and tram for a whole semester, about 3 months, 5 months sometimes, for like £50. So that's a lot cheaper than the UK. The only negative I'd say is that you don't get student loan because it's not in the UK. So you have to fund it yourself. Next slide. How long is the course and what happens after graduation? So the course is generally 6 years, but 5 years is studying medicine. And then 1 year counts as an internship year, but it's equivalent to foundation year 1 of in England. So in England, you do 5 years and then you do 2 foundation years of working. And the 6th year is equivalent to the first foundation year. So after graduating and you finish your 6th year, you can apply directly to foundation year 2 in the UK, as long as you apply to a uni that's accredited by the GMC, which is the General Medical Council. And due to like everything that happened during Brexit, you can just come in. You don't have to sit any extra exam except for an English test than the UK students. So you're not put in any disadvantage from coming from abroad. And you can also apply to other universities globally, such as America, Canada, New Zealand, Australia, basically any university. Next. So why apply to study abroad? It's an exciting experience. You get to stay away at a country of your choice. You get to learn the culture. You get to experience new things. You get to give yourself a better chance of studying medicine, because medicine is a lifetime career. And even though initially, when I was in year 13, I ended up getting one offer, and then results day, it didn't go so well for medicine, but I got other offers for pharmacy. And I just thought to myself, I could do pharmacy. It's a good career path, but it's not what I want to do. And it's a career for the rest of your life. So don't choose something just because you didn't get in. Give yourself the chance to like do what you actually want to do. It's a small price to pay for a long time. And you pay much less than the average UK student, and you come out debt-free, which is good. And you just take every opportunity you get to make your dreams come true. Next slide, Debbie. So general advice, I would say, only apply to top universities and make sure that they're registered by the GMC. Generally, every university that will be offered to you will be registered by the GMC, but just double check yourself. There's no harm in doing extra research. Book your exams for after A-levels, I'd say, to give yourself more time. Visit the country you want to go to in the summer if possible, even for just a year. Go to a university that has direct flights to England and back. This will save you a lot of money and time. And with this whole coronavirus thing, tickets have been so cheap. I came just yesterday back to check and my ticket was like £15. The ticket before that was £5.70 to fly. So it's very cheap. So yeah, and buy an international card, I would say, such as like a Revolut or a Starling or a Monzo, because what that would do is that it will save you a lot of money because you get the exact conversion rate without interest. And a lot of banks normally give you a lower conversion rate. So they take off money and then they add interest as well. So this will save you hundreds per year. And also another tip I would say is that, like, if you're even just like debating it, I would say go for it, because I know people that only applied after results day and then they were in so much rush and panic. So it's good to just give yourself that option by the side. Next slide, Debbie. So this is where to find me. I've got Insta, YouTube. I'm not very active on it, but I'm going to be more consistent. Snapchat and TikTok. Thank you. If you have any questions, just make sure you write them down and then I will answer it after the break.
Okay, so thank you everyone. So that finishes our first part, which was the different routes into medicine by our speakers. So first up, we had an introduction by Miranda and myself. Then following that, we went through the traditional route with Oluyemi, who took us through her story of the importance of persistence when applying to medicine. Then after that, we had the gap year route with Nimra, who also took us through that route and the importance as well of improving your application as much as possible then. Following from that, we had the conversion route with Frank, who took us on how competitive that may be, but how that's still an option. Then we had the graduate entry route with Anna, who took us through how that at times it may be challenging along the way, but so it's really important to make sure medicine is worth it. And lastly, we've just had our speaker, Chedza, who's taken us through the international route into medicine. And yeah, so Chedza has mentioned a lot of great points about the importance of applying before results day and why international route could also be an option. So thank you to all our speakers. Now we just have a short, about 2 to 5 minute break, where if you have any questions, I'm going to make it a 2-minute break. So if you have any questions, please put it in the chat and we will be answering them then. Okay, thank you. So we'll be back in 2 minutes. Okay, so that ends our break, and now we're officially at part 2, which is the question time. So now it's time for questions. I'm just going to wait for some of our speakers to come back. Okay, great. So the first question we had is actually for Nimra, and it is, how do you keep the motivation in your gap year? So how did you keep up with motivation in your gap year?
So the reason why I chose to go to college was because I wanted to be surrounded by people who were doing the same thing as me. So I felt like college was a really good choice in that way, but also keeping busy as well. So like I said, I got a part-time job, and that was a way of keeping busy and not just like only doing studies and like distracting myself as well.
Thank you for that. Our next question is for Chedza. Somebody asked whether there's a conversion course also needed for the international route into medicine. So would you need a top up or a conversion route? I'm assuming that they mean if you're transferring from England to another country. Yeah. You're on mute.
Oh, sorry. I said, no, you don't. The only thing you need to do extra is an English test, but if you're a native speaker, then it should be fine. Everything else, you just go straight and transfer into second year foundation.
Lovely. Okay, so now we have a question for clearing. So in terms of results day, did you have any plans for clearing?
Oh yeah, so I think there was a slide on this. I put like a picture of, I kind of just wrote down all the unis that I wanted to like contact. So like I wrote down the emails and the numbers as well. I had my results, like everything in one place. So like if they asked me over the phone, I would have everything. And then I drafted emails as well to different unis stating my results, my UCAT results, my GCSE results. And yeah, kind of just having like all the information ready if they ask for anything. And also waking up early on results day is very important because medicine is very competitive, and I know clearing is like also very like rare. So I just kind of had that priority to wake up early and call as many unis as possible. So yeah, that was basically it for results day.
Thank you. We have another question for you as well. Did you encounter any problems regarding your age when applying for medical school, as most unis require you to be 18 before the start of the year?
So that's actually quite interesting because I never thought of that, but not that I know of. So I got into King's and they didn't say anything about my age. The only problem I had was with accommodation. So the accommodation that I could apply to was limited. But in terms of like my age for other unis, I don't know if that's why they rejected me. I actually have no clue, but I don't think it affects anything. As long as you have your GCSE results and your A-level results, I think it should be fine.
Okay,
So
thank you. Oh, sorry, I cut you off.
Thank
you. Now another question for Nimra. Did you use LHAP as your work experience? This person is struggling to find the clinical experience that some universities ask for.
So I use LHAP as an additional work experience. So I did do a hospital work experience, but I know a lot of my friends, so they use LHAP as like a volunteering place. And a lot of universities understand like it's hard to find placements and stuff, but if you can show, for example, with LHAP is volunteering, if you can link that somehow to medicine, then I think that will be fine. It's just about your experiences and what you've learned.
Okay, thank you so much for that. Question for Frank. Did you have any exams when transferring from biomedical science? And if you did, what were they like?
So I didn't have to do any exams because it was an internal conversion. They only took into consideration my exams for my biomedical course in the first semester. So they didn't even look at my levels or GCSEs, and I didn't have to do UK CAT either. So I didn't have to do any additional exams for the conversion. It was just based on my medical course exams.
Thank you for that. This question, I believe, is for Anna. Where do you start with a graduate entry medicine personal statement?
Yeah, that's a good question. We can start anywhere with personal statement. I think just like, yeah, I think with me, I started after school. I just like didn't mention school at all, and then just talked about what I've been doing since school. And I mentioned like work experience, volunteering, what my degree actually taught me, and how I could transfer the skills from my old degree to my new degree. But I could send you guys my personal statement, or if you email me, then I'll send you my personal statement so you can see it as well. I think that'd be helpful. Yep.
Thank you, Anna. Also, is there a year abroad scheme for graduates?
Yes, there is. So you could, as a graduate, you could either start from undergraduate and do a 6-year degree, or you could do a 4-year degree as well.
Okay, lovely, thank you. This question's for Tredza. Do you have to speak the local language, or was the course in English?
The course is in English. It obviously helps to know how to say a few things for going around, but they do teach you the local language by the side, because when you get to like your 3rd year, you're going to start clinicals and you need to be able to communicate with the patients. But in terms of the actual lectures and teaching you, it's all done in English.
Okay, thank you. Then we have another question for Tredza. Are there any grants available to cover the living costs for people from low-income households for studying abroad?
Unfortunately not, because the UK is not going to give you any money for that, because it's not inside the UK. But maybe if you were like a joint citizen of another country, then they can give you the university for free.
Okay, now I believe we have more general questions, so this can go to any of the speakers who wants to answer. When do you take the UCAT or BMAT? Is it in year 13? Any speaker want to answer that?
So for me, I did mine in the summer after year 12, so right before year 13.
Did any speakers do their UCAT or BMAT in year 13? Miranda raised hand.
Yeah, sorry. So I just wanted to say, in general, I think you can't. Well, you can take your UCAT in year 13, but the testing times usually start from July and end in September. So July is when you end year 12, like Oluyemi said, and September you'd be in year 13. So after that point, you wouldn't be able to take the UCAT that year. So people usually take it within that time period based on how ready they feel like they are to take the exam.
Thank you for that, Miranda and Oluyemi. We have another question, a general question here. What extracurricular things do medical schools take an interest to? So any of our speakers can answer that, whether that's your personal extracurriculars that you did or ones that you know that medical schools really like.
So in my personal experience, they asked me for my interview, they asked me a question on how I dealt with stress. So I then stated some extracurricular activities, playing piano or playing basketball or going to the gym, because they also want you to know that you can deal with the stress of medicine and you're not just going to be doing medicine.
Thank you, Frank. Does anyone else have any other answers as well on any extracurricular things that medical schools take an interest to?
I think kind of basically what Frank just said, but like showing them that you have a life and like that you have wide interests. because they want to see that you'll have a good work-life balance. But yeah, Frank said it. Thanks.
Thank you, Anna and Frank. Another general question, when do you hear back from universities regarding interviews?
So I think it's different for different people. For me, it took quite a while for them to get back to me. Like people were hearing back in like October, November, but mine started to come from like January the next year. So, and then I got my King's one in March, which was like really late. It was very close to summer. So it honestly depends on the person. And yeah, you could start hearing back from September, like right when you apply, up until like March, April. So don't stress if it doesn't come quick.
Thank you, Oluyemi. We have another question here. It's a general question. Can you still do medicine if you do a BTEC applied science instead of A levels? What route would that be? Miranda raised her hand.
So with that one, off the top of my head, I'm not sure if any schools do take BTEC for medicine, but I think we've seen from the speakers' stories that there are still other options like graduate entry medicine or possibly international medical school. But if you want to discuss that further with us, you can email us or send us a message on social media and we can set up a meeting to discuss more of your options if you'd like.
Thank you, Miranda. This question is for Anna. How did you choose where to apply? What criteria did you use to really narrow down on the courses?
That's a good question. I like did so much research beforehand, and there's so much available online, so I'd recommend like properly like researching really hard. And I made this like spreadsheet and I had like the university, the number of places available per person. I think that's a really important thing because you like, I mean, you want to like apply to where you think you're likely to get in. So you don't want to apply where there's like 100 applicants per place. So yeah, I looked at those. I looked at the required aptitude tests. So for graduate entry courses, there's like 3 tests that you could do. And from speaking to different people, I found out like which ones were really hard, which ones were a bit easier. The UCAT was a bit easier. The GAMSAT was a bit harder. So I looked at that. And then I also just like thought about where do I want to live for the next 4, 5, 6 years. I think that's a really big thing. I didn't consider that for my undergraduate and I wish I did. So yeah, definitely figure out where you want to live in the country or the world as well.
Thank you, Anna. I believe this is the last, oh no, we have 2 more questions. This question's for Frank. Did you still have an interview? And if so, what type? Was it an MMI? And how did you prepare?
So I did have an interview and it was supposed to be an MMI, but because COVID happened that year, they changed it to a one-on-one interview, which was around like 20 minutes and just questions. But because I wasn't really sure of one-to-one interviews, I prepared as if it would be an MMI. So I went on a few websites and I looked at the ethical scenarios and just different ways of answering why you want to do medicine and why I don't want to do medicine. So yeah, it was a one-on-one interview and it wasn't too challenging.
Okay, thank you so much, Frank. And last question is a general question. Do I apply for medical school in year 12 or year 13?
Year 13.
Could you please expand on that, Chedsa?
You send off your application in year 13, but you can get like volunteering and other things down in year 12, but the actual application is in year 13.
This filter shot.
Okay, so I believe that is part 2 done, and that is all of our questions. I'll just give a few seconds if anybody wants to type any more questions in the chat. Okay, I don't believe anyone is typing. So that ends today's event, the different routes into medicine. Firstly, I'd love to say a big thank you to all of our speakers. So Olayemi, Nimra, Frank, Anna, and Chedsa, thank you so much for giving up your time. And then also a thank you to all who attended. On the upper right side, we have the contact details of Med2Be consultants, so our website, email, Facebook, and Instagram. And so as Miranda said beforehand, we give general UCAT, personal statement, interview, and UCAS admissions guidance. So if you'd like any help with that, please feel free to contact us on any of those. And we will also be running more events like these in the future. So if you liked this event, please keep up to date with us on our social media. So for example, Facebook and Instagram at Med2Be Consultants. Thank you so much, everyone. I'm just checking the chat to see if there are any questions. No, they're just thank yous. Thank you everyone for attending. Goodbye. Bye, everyone. Thank you.
Bye. Oh, Debbie, you can stop recording. Thank you for hosting.